Good morning and welcome to the New Mexico EVV and payments training for workers. We'll begin here in just about a minute to allow everyone who's registered the chance to jump on. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. We do have a few training guidelines that I'd like to go over real quick before I just jump into it. Um, Just so everyone knows, you are all muted right now and you will remain muted for the remainder of this training. If you have any questions, there is a question box that you can type those into. We have several PALCO staff in this training to assist with questions as we go, and I'll pause at designated question times as well to review those questions out loud that you may have. If we do not get through all of your questions, you can leave us your email address and we'll follow up with you in the next few days. Please use that question box just for questions only to allow our staff the ability to answer everyone's questions. And please refrain from leaving comments and opinions in that box. Today's training is going to be geared towards workers of self-direct participants and employers who need to understand the process for payments and time entry with PALCO. We want to ensure you have everything that you need to succeed once our system replaces the Focus system in May of this year. I want to take just a moment to introduce myself. My name is Savannah Gentry, and I'm an enrollment coordinator for the PALCO program based out of Arkansas. I've spent the last 3 years servicing the self-direction community by assisting in many different departments, including field support. I currently focus on the intake department in Arkansas, as well as assist with New Mexico implementation trainings. Our agenda today will be broken into two separate parts. So let's go ahead and go over what's going to be in part one. So part one is going to review our EVV or electronic visit verification program. We'll have a short Connect overview, and then we'll look into the EVV mobile app, how to register for that, and an overview of how it works. And then we'll go over QR codes for shared devices, and we'll review the EVV exemptions. After that, we'll jump over to part two of the training. This part will go over payments and utilization using the Connect app. Time entries will review and how EVV works and how a worker would enter their time into Authenticator. We'll go over time entry and how Connect works and how a worker would enter non-EVV time into PALCO's online timesheet application. This is what will be replacing the Focus system. We'll go over pay stubs in Connect and how a worker would view those in Connect. We'll be viewing utilization in Connect and how an employer would review that time in Connect. And we'll review how to run reports in Connect and how the employer will view those reports in there. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right in. I want to give you a quick review over Connect. This is the website that we'll be using that will take over the Focus online time entry system once we do get started. Connect is PALCO's online time entry portal used by employers and workers to record and submit their time. This is what's going to replace that current focus system. Connect is integrated with EVV, and all EVV shifts recorded in Authenticare are imported into Connect. Connect includes additional features like reports for workers and for employers, and it includes those pay stubs. Instructions for using Connect as well as viewing pay stubs can be found in the Time Entry User Guide for New Mexico, and this is currently located on the PALCO website, so you can go onto our website and grab that user guide at any time. Let's take a minute just to talk about the EVV, or Electronic Visit Verification System. You're likely already aware and knowledgeable of this system, but we'll go ahead and review over it. So electronic visit verification is used to capture certain services in real time using either the Authenticare mobile app or telephony. EVV shifts are imported from Authenticare to Connect daily. So every morning, the previous day's shifts will show up in Connect. Shifts must be complete in order to import over into Connect. So they must have a start time, an end time and date, and a valid service code to show up in Connect. Authenticare mobile application will roll out for MeVia and support waivers on May the 21st of this year. Now that telephony option that is currently offered there, that is going to stay just like it is. So if you're happy with that telephony option, you can always stick with that, but this is just another option to use as well. Now, a quick note for registering for the mobile app. If you are on the SDCB program, employers can register their workers on the Authenticare website. Nothing has changed with that. Support brokers can assist with providing training if you're not familiar with it. For everyone on MeVia and support waivers, there will be a new form called the EVV registration form, and you'll submit that to Conduent like it says on the bottom of that form. Conduent will use the registration form, and they will email you temporary login credentials. So once you do get those credentials, it does take a few days to receive that email normally, but once you do, you'll be able to use that app going forward from that point. Instructions for obtaining the device ID and the proper setup code specific to your program can be found in the mobile app user guide located on the PALCO New Mexico website. I'm going to take a moment and just kind of walk you through a virtual version of that mobile app. So as you can see on the screen right now, you should see a phone, and it is logged into the mobile app for Authenticare right now. So here is that app. If I click on that settings box right down here, it's going to pop up the settings tab. And this very top box, you can see where it says see device identifier. If I click on that, that's where I'm going to find my device ID. That's that ID number that you will use for that EVV registration form that we were talking about earlier for the MeVia and support waivers program. So if you do have to fill out one of those forms, this is where you would find your device ID in order to add that on that form to get your device registered. All right, I've went ahead and went back to that main screen. So once I have gotten my device ID and I've sent off that form and I've got my information to log in, then I will go ahead and open this up. I'll put in my temporary information. So I'll put in my worker ID and that temporary password, and I'll go ahead and click on sign in. Once I do, it'll bring me to our check-in screen. On this screen, I would check on new check-in at the beginning of my shift. And once I do, normally the participant that you're working for will pop up down here. If they don't, you can always enter in their last name or their client ID in this box and then click on lookup, and then it will bring them up. I'm going to go ahead and click on Bo Smith, and then it's going to bring up his personal check-in screen. So once I do have that up, it's going to show his name and his address just to verify that I am on the right person. And then it's going to show me a box where I can collect or I can select what kind of service I'd like to work. So as you can see here, the services that are allowed through the program that I'm clocking in through do show up right here. So you can see that it has the self-directed personal care tab right here and the respite care. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that personal care tab, and then I'm going to click done because that's the kind of service that I plan on performing at this time. And then it's going to bring me back to that check-in box. Now it will look just slightly different than this. It's still going to have Bo Smith's name up here and the address here, but then next to service, it's going to say the one that you did choose. So it would show right here that I've got that personal care chose right now. If everything does look correct, then I'll go ahead and click on the check-in box right down here. Now you can see once I do click on that, I'm going to get a success box that pops up to let me know that I have successfully clocked in. I'll go ahead and click on this done. As you can see, it says what time my shift is started. So that's the time that will come over into Connect as the start of your shift that you worked for that day. So I'll go ahead and click on done, and that's when I would go ahead and start working for the day. Once I've finished that visit for the day, I'm going to go ahead and open this back up. And as you can see, I'm on the checkout screen. Normally this will pop right up. If it has been a little bit that you have been working, sometimes it will log you back out to that first screen. But once you put in your username or your user ID and your password, it'll bring you right back to this screen where you'll check out from that visit. So as you can see, I've got that personal care visit pulled up. Here's my check-in time that I had from that morning, and I'm going to go ahead and check out of my visit. Once I've checked out, you can see that success box pop back up. It tells me what time that my visit ended, and so I will click done, and then this will show up in Connect that next morning as my shift work for the day previous. All right, next up, this applies only to the Me Via and support brokers crowd. If a worker is going to share a device with another worker to clock in and out through the mobile app, then you're going to need to have what is called a QR code to clock in and out. So each device is specific to one worker. Now we know that every once in a while things come up and you might have to share, and so this is an option that we have here. Workers are highly encouraged to not share devices. If a device is being shared, it is recommended that you use the telephony option rather than that mobile app for clocking in and out. If the mobile app is preferred, all workers should have their own unique device and not share if at all possible. If a worker must temporarily use a smartphone that's either not theirs or share a smartphone with another worker, a QR code can be scanned on their device, and that's how they would clock in and out. To register for a QR code, the employer would need to contact the Fiserv help desk at the number provided to request a QR code for each individual worker. The QR code will be unique for each worker and can be printed and used to scan repeatedly for each shift. One important thing that does affect everyone is overlapping jurisdiction users. If a worker is providing multiple services on different programs, so if you were to be providing services through the SDCB program and also the support waivers program or another combination like that, the mobile app must be reset before each use. This is very important. Each program has a unique setup code. By resetting, you will go back to the screen, allowing a setup code to be entered. We do understand that this is a huge hassle and highly recommend that you use different devices for each program or different methods to clock in and out. So, for example, if I were to be providing two separate program services, then I would use the mobile app for like my MeVia clock-ins, and then I would use the telephony option for that self-direct community benefit. I'm going to go ahead and pull this back up, and I'm going to show you real quick. At the beginning, when I went to clock in, when I first opened this up, when I showed you this settings box, if you go back to that settings box, you can see right here that it says reset and change setup code. So this is where you would go if you do use that app for two different kind of services through two different programs. So you would go here to reset it. That way you could enter that code in. For those that are currently using the Authenticare website, all SDCB employers will have read-only access to time entry once phase 2 is live. Everything will at that point be imported into Connect. Connect will then allow employers to edit and add time entries in that program. The SDCB employers will still be able to register workers in Authenticare as they have in the past. And then for the MeVia and support waivers, that will remain unchanged as far as access to Authenticare goes. So they will still not have access to that Authenticare website. Now, the EVV exemptions, I just want to mention those real quickly. If a participant is approved for an EVV or online time entry exemption, they will be allowed to submit paper time sheets. You would need to speak to your consultant, your CSC, or support broker for more information on that. Anyone without an approved exemption is required to use EVV and Connect. We're going to go ahead and pause right there. So if anyone does have any questions about what we have went over so far, please enter those into that questions box. Like I said before, we do have quite a few PALCO staff here to help answer those questions, and I can go over some out loud if it's something that does pertain to anyone in this group. So I'll go ahead and wait just a minute to see if anyone has any questions.
Hi, this is Lexi. I'm looking at questions in the chat box. The first question is, so does MeVia clock in through the phone or just through the mobile app?
I'm sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. So on that, you can clock in either or through the telephony option or that mobile app. It's up to you which option that you'd like to use there. So you would just choose which one best would meet your needs.
There's a question that's asking, will there be progress notes to enter separate from the EVV? And there's nothing that's changing with that. So whatever you've been doing is what you will continue to do. Does Nivea clock in through the phone or just through the mobile app? We answered that one. And no other current questions in the box.
Okay, if we don't have any other questions right now, we'll go ahead and move on. If a question does pop up, you can always use that question box to type it in, or we'll have another one of these little breaks here in just a little bit to go over any questions, so you can add them at that time as well. So I'll go ahead and move forward real quick. So this section is going to go over the payroll process chart. So this is just going to paint a picture for you for exactly how that process does work. So in the top left corner, you can see where we've got the worker there. Now that worker is going to clock into Authenticare using either that telephony option or that mobile app option, whichever they prefer. So they'll do their clock in and their clock out through there to collect their time for that visit that they've done that day. At that point, those hours are going to be sent over to the Palco Connect app. So once it does send over to Palco Connect, it's going to be in an open status. And just a reminder, those don't show up at the exact time that you do clock out. That will show up that next day in the Palco Connect. After that, you're going to continue to do that for the full pay period. As you clock in and clock out, those will show up in Connect that next day, and you'll just continue to do that for your pay period. The next thing that will happen, the workers are going to review and approve the time in Connect. This is the point where if there's any edits that need to be made, then the worker will make those edits at that point. So you'll log into Connect and you'll see all of your clock in and clock outs for that pay period. You'll look over them, make sure that you didn't make any errors on there, make sure that you didn't forget to clock in on time or you clocked out late or anything like that. You can edit those if you do. So that's where you would do that. And then at that point is when you will send your timesheet for approval. So once you've looked over all of them, you'll submit it, and it's going to change that status to under employer review. At that point, your employer is going to get a notification that you've sent your timesheet over their way, and it is awaiting action. So you can see there, the worker has sent it. It's making it to the employer. Now the employer is going to open up the Connect website, and they're going to either approve the time or they're going to reject the time. They cannot make any edits to your time at that point. They can only overlook it and see if everything looks correct or if there was an error on it. So it's very important that you do make your edits before you send it over if there's any issues there. So once they get it, if it is incorrect, then the employer is going to reject that time and it's going to be sent back over to the worker to be fixed. If everything does look correct on there, then the employer will at that point approve the time. If they have rejected it back to you, it'll start back over in this little loop until it is correct. So it would send it back to you. You would make the edits that are necessary, send it back to the employer. If it's correct, then they'll approve it. And if there's still issues, then they'll reject it and it'll come right back to you again. So that's kind of what happens there. Once the employer has approved that time, then it's going to go over and it's going to be in the status pending Palco review. So this is the point where budget checks are done and other problematic checks are done to make sure that everything as far as the program goes is in place, everyone is still active, and that you are able to be paid. So that's kind of where that goes. If it fails the checks for different reasons, whether too many hours were used, too much money was used, anything like that, then it will fail and it'll go back to this Connect portal to start over at that point, or it will pass. So once it passes the check, it's going to change that status to approved for payment, and it'll stay in that status up until it goes to payroll to be paid on the designated payday. So for payroll process deadlines, nothing is actually changing with this. The schedule that you're following right now is the same one that you're going to continue to follow, but we're going to go ahead and review that as a refresher. Pay periods run Saturday through Friday, 2 weeks long. Paper timesheets are due the Saturday following the end of the pay period by midnight, and then the online timesheets must be submitted by Tuesday at noon following the end of the pay period. Payments are made by Palco every other Friday by 5 p.m. following the published payroll schedule. And then there's a link below for how you can access that payroll schedule if you don't have a copy of that. But like I said before, it's the exact same as the pay schedule that's being used right now. We'll go ahead and go over an example of that. So you can see at the bottom is a little clip of our payroll schedule down here. The payroll period highlighted below starts on April the 9th and it ends on April the 24th. The paper timesheets are due Saturday the 23rd at noon, and the online timesheets are due, I'm sorry, that's not at noon. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Paper timesheets are due Saturday the 23rd, and the online must be submitted by the 26th at noon. I'm sorry, I read that just a little bit wrong. I looked at the 12 and just assumed up there. So the payments will be issued on May the 6th. Any time that is not submitted by these designated timelines is not guaranteed for payment on that payday. So it's very important that you get your timesheet turned in on time to guarantee that you get paid on the normal payday. So just a quick recap of Connect, like we spoke about towards the beginning of this training. Connect is Palco's online time entry portal used by employers and workers to record and submit their time. Connect is integrated with EVV, and all EVV shifts recorded in Authenticare are imported into Connect. Connect includes additional features like reports for employers and pay stubs. Instructions for using Connect as well as viewing pay stubs can be found in the Time Entry User Guide for New Mexico. And like I said before, that is already located on that Palco website. So if you do not have that yet, be sure to go and grab it. We'll go ahead and review over those pay statuses. I did slightly go over those as we were viewing that chart, but I just wanted to go over those in a little bit more of a viewer-friendly mode here. So for those statuses, the first status we'll go over is an open status. So data has been received from the EVV system and is ready for the worker to review. Changes can be made at this time. So this is where you're entering your time into EVV and it's showing up into Connect each day. So at that point, it's in an open status and it stays open until you have reviewed and made any edits and sent it forward. Once you do send that forward, it's going to change to an under employer review status. So this means that the timesheet has been submitted to the employer for approval. Then there is the needs resolution status. The employer has rejected the time and sent it back to the worker for corrections. Changes can be made at this time on that stage. So this means that you have sent your time forward. Your employer looked it over and said, no, this doesn't look right to me. They've sent it back to you and it's came back in that needs resolution status. The next one is the under Palco review status. So time has been submitted by the employer. So you've submitted your time over to the employer. They've said, yes, this looks great. And they've sent it towards Palco. So that's where it's at then. Palco is performing validations on the time to ensure it is payable and that there are no issues. The next status is the approved for payment status. Time has passed all of the Palco checks and validations. It is going through the final step of billing before it can be paid. And then that last status on the normal one is the paid status. So this means the timesheet has been closed and it's been paid out, and you can't make any edits to that at that point. Now, there is one other status on here. This happens towards the very end if there's issues. This is the rejected status. So this means that PALCO has rejected the timesheet for the reason listed in the portal. No changes can be made to that timesheet at this point. To correct it, a new timesheet must be started through Connect and will be recorded as an edited timesheet, facing the same warnings as listed above. So at this point, it means that PALCO has rejected that timesheet for a reason, and you would have to make a completely new one at this point because it has been rejected. We're going to go ahead and go over registering for Connect real quick. All employers and workers must register for Connect using the online web page. An email will be sent out about this prior to that go live date in May. There's a link below to register to Connect. All employers and workers will register with their PALCO ID, social security number, and email address. So those are the 3 items that you will need in order to get registered in Connect. And like it says above, they will send out an email prior to that go live date letting you know to be sure to get registered for that. I'm going to go ahead and pause there for just 1 second. Is there anyone that had any questions about how this flow process works or what a status means, anything to do with this flow process schedule? Did anybody have any questions with that? There was a question in the question box. It was asking if those shifts that are work, if they will show up on the weekends or if it'll wait till Monday or Tuesday, like the Focus system has done. This will run 7 days a week, so it'll upload every single morning. So if you work a shift on Friday afternoon and you clock out Saturday morning, it'll show up. Same thing if you work over the weekend. If you worked on Saturday or Sunday, it'll show up that next morning. I'll wait just one more second longer. Any more questions about how this this process flow chart does work? All right, we'll go ahead and jump forward then. We're going to take a dive into Connect and what it actually looks like. The worker will be the first one to log into Connect website for a timesheet. So we'll go ahead and go over that. Now, I did want to go ahead and remind you that Connect is an actual website. It's not a mobile phone app. So you will log into the actual PALCO website. Shifts are imported into Connect from Authenticare daily each morning. This means employers and workers will see their EVV shifts the next day. Time comes into Connect in an open status under the worker. Time must be reviewed and submitted for approval at the end of each pay period. It does not have to be approved every single day. You can jump in there just as often as you want to review if you want to, but you don't have to do that every single day. It can be done at the end of that pay period before the timesheet is due. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and show you kind of little clips of what it does look like when you're logging into Connect, just to get you kind of a friendly face to look at, I guess you could say, so you know what you're doing once we do get you up and started. So the first thing, the worker is going to log into Connect for initial review. So this is when you open up that website, that connect.palcofirst.com website. This is the page that's going to pop up. You're going to log in through that. Once you've already created your login, you're going to log in using your email and your password and click on that sign in. The next thing the worker is going to do is they're going to click the time entry at the top. So up here in this top corner, they're going to click on that time entry and select the participant and the current timesheet. So once they've opened that up, you can see over here, this example does work for 2 different participants. So they would choose the one that they want to click on. So in this example, they've clicked on Phoebe, and then it's going to show all of the pay periods that are available there. And they're going to click on that current one right there. Then the worker will review all of the submitted time and ensure it's correct. If everything looks correct, then they'll click on that submit for approval. So you can see right here, it's got the shifts for each day. This one doesn't have an entry for Monday. And then Tuesday, there's a 12 to 4 that they have the option to edit if they need to. And then on Wednesday, you can see a 4 to 8, also with that option to edit there. No time on Thursday and Friday has been submitted, but if this looks correct to them, they'll click on that submit for approval down here at the bottom. At that point, the employer would log into their account and they would choose to either approve or reject the time. So as you can see here, they can't make any edits to this time. They can only see what you've sent over and said is the hours that you worked. And then they have the option to either approve it and send it forward or reject it, and it comes back to you at that point. If they do click on that reject, as you can see right here, it says reject. You are about to reject this timesheet. The timesheet will now be rejected. Please choose the rejection reason. And they're going to put a reason for why they're sending this back to you. So either incorrect service type or incorrect time on there. Selecting reject will deny the timesheet and send it back to the worker for corrections. An email notification will be sent. So if your employer were to reject your timesheet, you'll get an email saying, hey, there's an issue with your timesheet. Be sure to log in and get that fixed. The employer will need to indicate the reason they are rejecting the timesheet. Employers should only reject a timesheet if it's wrong or requires an edit. Edits should only be made when necessary. Edits on EVV time will be flagged, and too many edits can cause employers to be out of compliance with the 21st Century's Cures Act. So we're going to go ahead and go over how to edit and modify time. If a shift requires an edit or a new shift needs to be added, the worker must do this while the timesheet is in an open status in Connect. They will select Add Timesheet, Edit, or Delete on the right-hand side of any shift. So as you can see, this Tuesday shift on the right-hand side under that action, they can edit or delete there, or they can add more time up there in that blue box at the top. In that edit mode, the worker, so you can change the service type or adjust the start or end time using the drop-down boxes. So there's the drop-down box for changing what kind of service that was provided, or if you can change that start time or the end time here, and then you would click on add once it is, once it does match the service you provided. If the service code being entered or modified is an EVV service, the system will alert you that you are changing a shift that requires EVV and ask you to select the reason for why you are editing or adding a shift. So you can see over here, it says, warning, the authorization requires EVV. Any changes made to this entry will result in an exemption, and then you would choose the exemption reason. You would choose which one ever matches the closest to why you are needing to change that time on there. And then you would click on that add button. Edits and manual entries to the EVV time will also require you to indicate the location where the services were provided. You would enter the full address, including city, state, and zip where services were provided. So that's if it were an EVV time that you're entering. Once all edits are complete, the worker can submit for approval by the employer and the cycle would begin again. So at this point, you've looked over it, you've made any edits that need to be done, and you'll submit it back over to your employer to look over. And as a reminder, they only have two options. They can either approve it or deny it. So at this point, it's very important that you make sure that it does match perfectly to what you have worked and the type of services that you've worked as well. So here's just an overview again. So what we just went over was when that employer rejected the time, it came back, and that's when the worker was making edits to their time, and then they have submitted it back to the employer to be hopefully approved with the correct time on it. So a little more in detail on the payroll validations. Once a timesheet is submitted by the employer to PALCO, the timesheet will become locked in a pending PALCO review status. This status indicates PALCO is running payroll validations to check that the timesheet is payable in accordance with state, federal, and program rules. If the check fails, the timesheet will not be paid. A few examples of things PALCO will check for include Medicaid eligibility for the participant, worker enrollment completion, budget authorizations for funds and units, and budget authorizations for services. So it'll just be checking over to make sure that the participant is still eligible for the program, that you as a worker are an active worker and have completed all of your enrollment to get started. It'll go over if there is enough funds and units and if the services match the amount of hours used. For failures and rejections, timesheets are reviewed and validated by PALCO. If a timesheet fails the validation process, the employer will be emailed immediately notifying of the issue and what corrections are needed. An example, if a timesheet has more hours than what is allowed on the budget, the employer will be emailed notifying them of the overage and what shifts are causing this issue. Employers will need to notify the worker of any failures, and the worker will then need to log into Connect and fix the timesheet in a needs resolution status. Then you'll resubmit the timesheet to the employer, who will then log into Connect and review it and resubmit it over to PALCO if it looks correct. Then the validation process will begin again at that point. In addition to the failure email notifications just covered, the PALCO system will also send notifications of other timesheet events that occur, such as you would get a notification if a timesheet is ready for the employer to review. So that one, the employer would get a notification saying your caregiver has sent your timesheet over. Log in and make sure that you review that to approve or deny it. Also, a timesheet has been rejected by the employer and requires corrections. So this would be the notification that you would get saying that your caregiver has rejected your time, and you would log in and fix it at that point. I had mentioned earlier that in addition to approving time, Connect contains a few other great things. So in addition to the time entry system, the Connect portal also provides valuable reports for supporting the journey of self-directed services and supports. Two of those features are spending summaries and payment details. Both of these reports can be accessed by logging into that Connect portal. Spending summaries provides enrollment information to help track utilization, and payment details provides both the employer and a worker employed by the participant with access to pay stub information and history. We're going to go ahead and go into detail about the pay stubs and how to find that on Connect. So pay stubs are visible to both the employer and the workers on payday and any day moving forward. Those do stay saved in there indefinitely. So as long as you're still an active worker, you can jump in there and view any pay stubs that are saved in there. Payment details are available to both the employer and the worker employed by a participant. To access, you would log into Connect and select that Payments tab from the toolbar in the top right of your screen. Once the payment screen is up, there are many options for what you would do here. So you can see in that top left corner, it says last 90 days right now. So you would select the time frame for what stubs you'd like to see. So you could go as far out as you'd like, or you could make it specific to just the one that you're looking for. A little to the right of that, you can see where they have the employer Jane Doe pulled up. So, oh, I'm sorry, have the worker Jane Doe pulled up. So if the employer has multiple workers, so for the employer, it would show up any workers that are active under them at that point. For you, it'll just show your name right here. And then on this left-hand side, you can see this triangle. You would click on that triangle to pull up a little bit more details about that specific pay stub that you're wanting to look into. Once you've clicked on that down arrow, then you'll see more details about that pay stub. So you can see the total earnings and deductions, the net pay, all that information is available. And then there's also the option to click on this view stub, the blue words on the right-hand side. Once you do click on that view stub, it's going to bring you up a print-friendly version of it. And it does go into a little bit more detail. So exactly what the deductions were for, your year-to-date information, all of that is available at this point. It also shows your rate of pay and how many hours were paid out. So all that information is available right there, and it is print friendly. So if the way that you would like to be paid does change at any time, you must complete a new pay selection and direct deposit authorization agreement. And this is located on the PALCO website. PALCO offers either direct deposit to the worker account or for the worker to sign up for a free money network card. Paper checks is also an option, but it is highly discouraged. These options are key to receiving timely payments, so please ensure that you are signed up for them. Like I said, the direct deposit or the money network card are the two preferred options. We do have a paper check option, but it is discouraged just because of mailing time and the chance of it possibly getting lost in the mail, things like that. So we try to avoid using that paper check option if at all possible. Changing your payment information can take up to one pay cycle later, so submit the form to Conduent right away. And we will go ahead and pause right there for any questions. So if you have any questions about the information that we have covered, go ahead and enter those into that questions box, and we'll go ahead and review over those real quick. I'll take just a couple minutes. There was a question if the transportation mileage will be on the Connect website. That will not be located on Connect at this time. Just be watching for information about that moving forward, but at this time it is not being located on the Connect website.
There's a question in the chat box about, is there a separate registration needed for multiple participants? And what is the process for that? So I'm not really understanding, are you saying that, do you need to register each time if you work for multiple participants? That would be no. But each participant has to register their individual account, if that's what you're asking.
There's a question asking if the login information for the app and the Connect website will be the same. Connect is only a website. There is no app for Connect. There is the Authenticator app. So if you are claiming your time through that mobile Authenticator app, you'll have login information for that, and that will be a user ID and a password. And then through the Connect website, you will also have a login, and that will be your email and a password. So it will not be the exact same. Depending on you, your password could be the same, but that the information for your username would be different since you do use your email for the Connect website. Any other questions before I move forward?
There are no, currently no other questions in the chat box.
All right, we will go ahead and move on then. This next slide that I'm pulling up, this has our website on it. So you can visit our website at www.palcofirst.com/New Mexico. At this website, you can access a full list of training recordings and resources. So the training that's done today, there will be a recording of a training like it added on there. So if you do decide that you want to rewatch through, or if you have any questions that you think may have been answered in it, but you missed the answer, and you can always watch through those. There's also there's other trainings that are just specifically for Q&A. So those will go over just questions that people have came up with after they've left these trainings. So you can always join one of those, or there's also a frequently asked questions list on there that you could also review if you have a question that you feel like probably a lot of people have asked before. The list of handouts below is also located on our website. So we have that time entry user guide located there. This is a great tool moving forward. It's just as good as these slideshows are, in my opinion. It does have little clips in there and images to kind of walk you through. I'm a very hands-on person, so I like to have a paper copy of it just to look back on. So you can always download that onto your desktop. So be sure to grab that if you haven't done so already. There's also that EVV telephony user guide on there. So that would help with that call-in option. If you do decide to stick with the call-in option, there's information for how to use that. And then there's also the mobile app user guide located on the website as well. And this will go over exactly how to use that app if you have any questions with that. So be sure to grab one of those handouts if there are any questions that you have with those. And that is everything that we do have for today. I will go ahead and pause here for anybody that has a question that hasn't been answered yet. I'll stay on for just a couple minutes if you want to put those into that bar. But if you don't have any questions, you are good to go. And thank you so much for attending today. There are, like I said, there are lots of training options if you need to attend a QA session, or if there's any other trainings that you feel that you need to review again or haven't gotten a chance to sign up for, be sure to view that list and get signed up for any trainings that you would like to attend. And you guys have a great rest of your day. There was a question if this self-direct program will be available in other states in the future. That program is available in quite a few different states. You can view on our PALCO website other states that we do cover as well. So be sure to view that website for that information.
There's a question about using the laptop to call in for 9959. I'm assuming that's a code for Homemaker. I'm not sure how you would lose the laptop to call in. If you could clarify your question, I'd be happy to answer it. So just to maybe clarify, to start your shift, as a worker, you'll have to uh, check in and out of the AC Authenticare EVV platform, and that time will then be imported to Connect the following day. So again, the question is, instead of calling in for Homemaker, can we do it on the laptop? So that would be a no. You either have to use the telephony or the Authenticare EVV feature. I hope that answers your question.
Catherine, just to clarify a little bit, a laptop does not have that device ID like a phone mobile app does. So you would either need to have a mobile app using a tablet or a phone, a cell phone, a smartphone, or you would use that call-in system using a landline. I hope that clears that up a little. All right, we are going to go ahead and jump off then at that point. If you do have any other questions, be sure to join one of our QA sessions for that. And we hope you have a great rest of your day.